Yeah. What's up, kids?
Howdy ho, neighbor.
With you.
So Mike, did you watch any of it?
No, because I don't wanna start it and not be able to finish it. So
That's pretty good because it wasn't broken up exactly like what I thought it would be. For some reason, it wasn't. Weren't we told it was going to be broken off into 1 hour chunks?
Originally, yes, but
Yeah.
that was a misspoke something by someone who apparently doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Zack Snyder.
Ended up being what, 6 plus an epilogue?
Yeah, 7 parts, one of being epilogue.
Yeah, so it was like
Epilogue, the after part, right?
Yeah, it's basically the epilogue.
Scene.
Well, just like in a book, an epilogue is basically the culmination of all the storylines in the book, and so this being the where everybody's going or is doing following the events of the movie.
Yeah, and a bit of teaser for the next movie or two or whatever.
Ooh.
It's like a Marvel thing except before the credits.
Yeah.
I like it.
So it's interesting because there's obviously been a while since I've watched anything except for Wonder Woman, which doesn't matter because that takes place before this. But it's interesting to see if the only thing we know of going forward out of this right now is the Flash movie.
Which still hasn't really gotten off the ground yet.
Yeah, I mean, they at least have a script and stuff now, so that's good, and a director, and some casting. But that was the only.
Ezra Miller will be Flash.
Well, we have other people in there too, bud. Iris is coming back. I can't remember her name right now. I could probably tell you what it is, because there's a whole list of here. But the only movie that obviously hasn't, or the only character that hasn't done anything that we know of, other than Cyborg 2, but that's pretty much dead in the water, is the Flash, and his part in this epilogue was the same as it was at the end of Justice League, the theatrical release. If you remember what that was, that it's exactly the same.
Okay.
And well, I mean, I should say this: nobody's ending in the epilogue, other than Bruce's, is any different than we saw before.
Okay.
Because this leads into Aquaman the movie, where he goes back to his father. We don't know what Diana does because there's nothing happened with her past this movie so far. Cyborg, well, we don't know anything about Cyborg because, well, that movie I think got shit canned completely. And then obviously, Superman. We don't know. But yeah, I don't know. It was, that blog was cool though. I mean, I thought it was pretty cool. It's like one of those things like for Joe and I who read a lot of books. Mike reads a fair amount of books. It was that's exactly how an epilogue goes. The only bad thing is we kind of know like we may not see fruition of all those storylines going forward because of obviously the state of the DCEU, which is kind of shitty because like there's a lot of cool shit that was kind of, I guess, teased or cliffhangered in this movie, because the ending, which Joe will probably may agree to this, the cliffhanger ending wasn't as detrimental of a cliffhanger as I thought they were going to do. Like, I mean, like
the logger of the direct movie,
the movie itself, with the whole ending difference between the. Do you remember the ending of the first movie, Joe?
I remember them standing on top of the reactor and then going back. No, I don't really remember the ending very well of the first movie, of the theatrical release.
So theatrical release, they defeat Steppenwolf. They beat him up, they stab him, he's bleeding, and then the parademons attack him, and he gets sucked up the boom tube, right?
Right, okay.
obviously without spoiling anything because I don't want to ruin it for Mike because I thought it was a pretty rad fucking sequence. That obviously was the cliffhanger they're talking about when they say cliffhanger for the end of the movie. And I was like, that's not actually as... I mean, it sucks because we're probably not going to see it. And even to, like, interview I read earlier with Zack Snyder, he even said, like, the next set of 5 movies that were planned roll out that... No, 5 movies. Well, he has 2 movies, Justice League, but the 5 movies, the 3 other was Flash, Aquaman 2... Or, I'm sorry, Flash.
But the next movies from him would have been 2 more Justice League movies.
But he was working.
He called this a trilogy of 5 movies.
Yeah.
Starting with Superman, Batman versus Superman, Justice League, and then he had 2 more Justice League movies that he wanted to do to finish out this story arc that he was lining up here.
Yeah, and it would have tied into the Flash movie that was at that time planned. Who knows? Yeah. Again, who knows what it's going to do now? Because obviously things have changed. But yeah, so it was interesting because I think, I mean, obviously the ending in this one is way fucking cooler than what was in the theater. I'm trying not to spoil anything for Mike.
Yeah, I totally agree, and not spoiling anything. I know I said that earlier that the movie was bad. The movie was not bad at all.
Yeah, he's a liar.
I can't tell because you have a horrible sense of humor in real life, and then through text, I can't understand it. I can't decipher it.
First off, my sense of humor is amazing. It's dry, it's witty.
That's why he lives in the desert.
Hey.
It's amazing. It's an amazing sense of humor. It just doesn't come off very well on text
or in real life.
Right, granted. Plus, I figured I'd keep you in suspense. Make you actually, you come on the show and.
I was literally this close to texting Joe outside of the group chat and be like, you're fucking with Mike, right? Because like
I was this close to texting you outside of the group chat and saying yes, I was fucking with him.
It was making me so mad because I was like, how did he not like this movie? I was like, no, okay, he's fucking with Mike. I don't want to say anything. He's gonna bring it up during the podcast. I don't have to worry about it. But I kept looking at that message. I'm like, please tell me Joe didn't just lose his mind. Like, all of a sudden I'm really critical about dumb shit. Like,
yeah, because you've always been on my side with the DC movies. Like, they have its flaws, obviously, but we've always kind of liked them more than like the general public. So when you said that, I was like, oh no, man!
Like, oh no, something happened.
Like I lost my ally.
Well, and that's the thing about this. And Joe, he may feel differently. I feel this should have been like the way we should have seen. I mean, obviously not 4 hours because that would have never happened. But like, I now understand why him and the people involved were so upset, because the tone of this movie is so much different in every aspect to the thing we got in the theaters.
Less comedy?
Yes,
no.
Less comedy.
There's less comedy
because they took out the stupid shit. Like, you don't get the Flash versus Superman at the end. The speed, the race thing. That was dumb. You don't need it. You don't have obviously the mustache piece. You don't have shit. What was it? I know there was a scene towards the center where Batman makes an actual joke to Superman or something like that. It wasn't it in the scene where they just resurrect him. Anyway, I can't remember. Anyway, so most of the jokiness, the shitty Whedonism is out of this movie.
Yeah, because it's the humor that is in this movie is humor within the situation. Like, they make wisecracks of like what's happening, but it
makes sense towards the characters.
Yeah,
you have Ezra Miller. His Flash character is the one that's making the jokes and trying to be a little bit lighthearted, but it makes sense for his character to be doing that. It makes sense for the scene for him to be doing that because he's nervous all the fucking time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The line, and this won't this won't ruin anything for Mike because I'm not going to tell what scene it was in, but the scene where it's Cyborg and Flash and they're talking about Diana, and he goes, "Do you think she'd ever go for a younger guy?"
Yes.
And Cyborg has the funniest line in that sequence because he goes, "She's 5,000 years old. Every guy is younger."
Yeah.
And he delivers it at like when you're watching it, he delivers it as like this like a real response, but he has this smirk, and you're like, God damn it! Like that's so good because it's so understated, but it's like he's fucking with Barry, but also being serious. You know what I mean? Like it was just fun. I mean, I thought it was.
No, it was really fun.
I read online, and I was didn't even like spoilers or anything, but it seems like the online is saying that the biggest difference is Cyborg has more of a story arc in this one.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was surprised about how much of the original movie was still actually in this movie. Having, read so much stuff where it's like, oh, Joss Whedon shot so much stuff that, that's most of Snyder's stuff didn't make it into the final theatrical cut. But in all honesty, like a lot of the stuff that was in the original movie is still in this movie. But the stuff that has been added in there added so much more to character development, especially with Cyborg. You have that story of him and his father and finding out more of that history there. That was absolutely amazing. And you even get that little bit more of Barry's story. You get that scene where he saves that girl.
Iris,
yeah. Is absolutely fun. Yeah, try not to spoil a lot of here.
Yeah.
The audio, I don't know. I don't remember how much your setup is at your house, Cody. The audio at the get-go was so interesting. I think it could have been a little bit better, but it was really good where Superman's yelling, that yell at the beginning, literally washes over you.
Yep.
In the surround sound. And it was so
unsettling
and amazing at the same time doing that. Something that I haven't heard many other movies do.
Yeah, there's a lot of
it's so mixed and the design is so well done.
Yeah, the audio, the audio design in this is phenomenal. But it's the use of the audio that, I mean, he does a lot in his movies. Music, for example, is a big thing in his movies. Slow-mo, obviously, is a big thing in a lot of his movies. But in this one, the audio was so crucial to it. Like, and I again, I watched it on a surround sound system, so there might be a lot of it lost in like a stereo application or a basic soundbar application, because there's a scene, and again, try not to spoil anything for Mike. The scene in this movie where Silas Stone gets kidnapped was this almost horror movie level of like setup for it. Comes in an apartment. The apartment is disheveled. There's this noise, and he turns, and there's a parademon. And it's that parademon croak they have, that like almost predator tick, and then it slowly turns its head, and like the light from its eyes intensifies because it's going straight, and it's just, I was like, yikes. Like it reminded me of horror levels of that scene with those piranha things from Aquaman.
Yeah.
Like the tone of the movie just goes to straight up, oh, this is a horror movie. And I was like, what is, like, is he going to die right now? Because I'm really confused on what's happening. Like, but I was like, it was the sound audio, the audio of it was just phenomenal. I can't remember. It was one of those things I experienced it. And speaking of experience, Joe, did you find yourself falling away from seeing the black bars after a while?
Yeah, I was actually going to mention that soon. So it's very jarring to see the 4:3 aspect ratio right there at the beginning. In fact, it even has a little blurb at the beginning. This movie is presented in 4:3 in order to preserve Zack Snyder's original vision, which was like weird to me. Like it was his original vision to set this as 4:3 in theaters. So it bothered me a little bit that it wasn't presented in widescreen. But after about 10 minutes of getting into the movie, I kind of forgot about it for an hour and a half until I paused it and went to the bathroom and came back and was like, oh, yeah, this is 4:3. This is weird. Why is this still in 4:3?
Yeah.
I never did go back and look up to see why he wanted presented in 4:3. Do you remember?
So if I remember reading the thing right last night when I sent it, because Taj made me mad when he said, "I thought you'd know." No, because I've been staying away from things because I don't want to spoil any of this for me. So like I didn't leak anything. I thought the trailers all looked like that because he was putting on the social media.
Mm-hmm.
He made it this way because he wants it to be visible on all platforms. So on a TV, on a phone, on a computer, on a tablet, wherever you happen to watching it at, it's gonna have the best.
Martin Scorsese.
Yes, basically. Like he made it.
I was like, yeah, watch it on a phone.
Watch it on the phone as long as you watch it. Just watch it.
Yeah, like it was, and the thing about it is like he must have known a long time ago because it didn't seem to me that any shots were cut differently not to fit in that aspect ratio.
No.
Everything was framed perfectly.
Yeah, so how long did he know about HBO Max? Like knowing that this was gonna live, indefinitely on a streaming service?
Well, I mean, I don't know about that, but I do know that when you shoot a video, the usable frame is a lot smaller than what you shoot, and most people don't realize that when you're looking at the visuals. There's more, and the reason they do that is so they can make sure they have ability to cut things out in certain ways. So there's a lot more to the left and right and top and bottom than what we see on a normal screen, and they have to shoot it a certain way where they, obviously everything they need to be visible in that section is there all the time. So you're not like cutting someone's forehead off when you're not supposed to be doing it, or all of a sudden there's an arm hanging out of the corner of the screen for no reason. So he might have been able to use that original edit because it was obviously shot on digital. He probably had all that extra aspect ratio to play with, and was probably able to crop it accordingly, I think. Did you read anything after you watched it, Joe, about like any of the interviews you did? Because I stayed away from a lot of them until today.
So I stay away from pretty much all the interviews that talk about the movie. The only interview that I read beforehand was that Vice article that he talked about, the reason why he stepped away, learning about that. I was just reading before we started something on Engadget, Gizmodo. It's actually an interview with him about what he was planning on doing for the next two Justice League movies, which was really interesting.
Yeah, I saw. I can't read all of this because it breaks down. He breaks, or not breaks down. He talks about part of the movie that I don't want to spoil for Mike because it's exciting and super fun. But he talked about and Joe will know this, what I'm talking about, the post-apocalyptic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That was what he shot new. Not all of it, obviously, because some of it was used, but the group that you see there, that was all newly shot. Okay. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay. Because thank you. That scene was so fucking good.
So good.
And when there's so many scenes in this movie, this 4 hours and 2 minute long, I'll say masterpiece of a film, Mike is going to literally explode out of his pants. So wear something absorbent, or just don't wear anything at all and just clean up afterwards.
He's not lying. They're literally scenes, and they're not exactly throwaway scenes, but especially at the end, where I was just like, "Oh my god, is he really? Oh my god!" And then cut to another scene, and you're like,
"Are we talking like cameos, like characters, or just the scenes themselves?"
Yes.
Sort of.
Oh no.
There's
sort of.
In this movie, the only. Well, there's the Iris West scene, which we didn't get in the theatrical release, but we've seen in the trailer now, where he rescues her from the car accident. There's that scene. It has a new somebody in it. There's 2 more scenes, one in the epilogue and one in the main movie, that has another character in it. And I don't want to.
Main movie one get you,
dude. Like... the main movie one. I was crying, and as soon as the door shut,
Justice League movie.
Go fuck yourself.
I'm not gonna lie. Look, I'm not gonna lie. By the end of this movie, it's very emotional.
Yeah,
it is. It speaks to you in a very, honest way. You can definitely feel him in his loss.
Yes.
Through the way it's made, through what the characters are saying, especially that end monologue that what's his name? Fisher, the cyborg's dad,
Silas Stone.
Silas is making, and how you can hear that, like, even in the darkest of times, you should never give up, type of thing, and the music that's going over it. It is such a sad thing that's happening.
You know how weird it is to hear Joe explain something as sad and heartfelt?
Oh, it's true.
It's true. But this one really gets you. It really does.
I don't stand a chance. God damn it.
You don't stand a chance at all.
You're going to have fluids leaking out from multiple places of your body, and it's going to be both awesome and uncomfortable.
Good way to start the weekend, I always say.
It's true. It's true. Yeah, there's to that point, like the cameos aside, there's visuals in this that make me so mad that we're not gonna see Batfleck really anymore. I know there's potential to see some of them in the Flash movie because that's like kind of been announced or whatever, but there's a line in that article that I was talking about that I was reading from, I want to say it was Entertainment Weekly, where he talks about this exploration of certain characters that we're not going to see now, that was going to be a setup for Batfleck's movie or movies. He says movie in this one, and when you watch it and we talk about it later, it makes me mad that we're not going to see it, because the exchange between these two characters, between Batman and somebody else, was so fucking good. It makes me mad.
Mm-hmm. I know exactly what scene you're talking about.
Yeah, and it's the kind of thing where it's like, after I got done watching the whole thing and I was sitting there, TV had gone to a screensaver on the Apple TV because I'm just sitting there and I hadn't heard anything from anybody, and I was like thinking to myself, I'm so mad at Warner Brothers and DC for not fully trusting him to give us this the first time, but I'm also very happy we get it now and like what he wanted it to be, because we would have never been able to get this 4-hour version in the theaters. Even if they tried to like somehow split it into 2 parts, it doesn't flow well if you separate it that much. It would be very lopsided. It'd be like 1.5 hours long here and like 2.5 hours here, and then it would have been like cutting Endgame or Infinity War off before the snap, doing the snap, doing the beginning of End War, and then another movie with just the last part of End War. It was like that kind of like, you couldn't do it because it is all of Infinity War and all of Endgame in its 4 hours and 2 minutes of glory. And I know, like, what made me mad is like, we could have had this, but then we could have had what would have spurred off of this. We could have had that, and now we're most likely not going to unless HBO's like, this does so good for them that they're like, what we should do this version, this multiverse version, we should do it on HBO Max and let these motherfuckers just light up the small screen, and I will be happy as shit.
That's the thing that I would hope that would come out of it. That would come out of this, because I totally agree. The chances of this being an actual movie from here on out is probably pretty slim. But if this does great streaming numbers for HBO Max, they're looking for something that they can just throw money at. Sequels for this would be the thing to do, because then you can do 4-hour sequels, that people could just sit down and watch, or 1 hour or 4-part, 4-part sequels, 1 hour each, whatever, behind this. I was reading some reviews earlier saying that this one reviewer was saying that this is too long, it should have been cut down, and I'm like, I don't know how you could say that, because we obviously saw a cut down version of this, and that's what sucked. You took away so much of the movie that it didn't make sense. This is one of those movies that they added so much to it that sure, there were some slower parts, but it was like, wow, now that explains why that person was in this area at a certain time, instead of just magically showing up. Or it explains why Steppenwolf was on Earth to begin with. Like, his transformation in this movie, going from the original theatrical to this movie, is mind-blowing.
Mind-blowing.
It's handled so much better in this movie that it's mind-blowing. That, and to say that you would somehow kind of cut that out, well, then you would end up with what you had in the theatrical trailer, or the theatrical movie, where I'm a bad guy and I'm coming down and blah, blah, blah. And then that's it.
Yeah. And then it was crazy, because I was, when I was watching this, and what was crazy to me about it, and to Joe's point about the character development, not just, across the board on everybody, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Flash, Cyborg especially, but also for Steppenwolf, just and even Superman. But we obviously had a lot of character building for Superman. This one actually had a cool little bit that you didn't really understand that you were going to get. But with Steppenwolf, in the original movie, he's seen, like Joe said, as this just killing force for no reason.
Yeah, he was
other than we
need a villain for this movie, Steppenwolf.
Yeah.
Okay, why is he there? Yeah. 3 boxes. That's why he's there.
Because I didn't hate Justice League, because I just thought it was fun, but there was nothing more than fun. But the biggest issue I had with it was Steppenwolf felt like the muscle for a bad guy. We're supposed to get that bad guy fight at the end, you know what I mean? But they never even showed the bad guy, It felt like, in like a Stallone movie or a Van Damme movie, Steppenwolf should have been the second to last fight scene.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's the henchman.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's there's this point in it where, and it's way deeper in this movie than I thought, and I'd have to go back and look at and watch the original. Not that I should, but the scene where Diana explains the first battle with in that movie Steppenwolf, in this movie Darkseid, and it's the all the groups of people on Earth coming together to be the champions. So you have the gods from above, as they say, the Atlanteans before they went underwater, the Amazons before they were turned into slaves. They had a lantern there, all these different things, right?
Amazing to see.
Yeah, amazing to see.
The fact that they even mentioned it too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And he's front and center in like a good scene, a good fight scene, and he's fucking shit up too. It's awesome. He's not racing cars and doing loop-de-loops and shit.
Right.
Which, to know, I mean, not making fun of anybody, but that's just weird. But that scene alone drives you to understand more about Steppenwolf than everything that was done in the theatrical movie. And he's not even in that scene.
No. Not at all.
And when you watch it, you'll understand what I mean by that if you remember this. But the other thing, too, is the Steppenwolf we got in the theatrical release was so... should have been able to be killed so easily compared to this version, because that shiny armor you see in the trailer is way more than just armor in this. It's not a spoiler because you see it in the trailer, but it's a weapon, but also I think it's sentient. Like not its own sentience, but it's like somehow attached to him, like through his consciousness, because it changes and alters itself when he gets mad.
He gets really mad at one point, and it like spikes up.
Yeah,
that's dope.
Yeah, like I shouldn't say sentient, more like it's this weird, almost like Tony Stark-esque suit, but it's attached to his emotions. When he gets ready for battle, it changes and forms differently. When he got angry, it spikes up. It gets him bigger, and it was just crazy, and it looked great. And the effects, the underwater effects in this, were so cool. And there's a scene, you briefly see it in the trailer, in the newer trailer, but when there's a small battle underwater, and it's not when Steppenwolf comes after the cube, Joe. It's the other one you see, and you see a certain something get used, and I was like, "Yo, can I have this? Like, I want more of this." Like, don't get me wrong, the water effects they used in Aquaman were essentially the same thing. Was cool way things worked underwater, but the physics they explored in this one, especially with Steppenwolf's axe, though, Joe, when he's holding it, and it's broiling with energy, and you can see the water evaporating around it. So there's like this channel of bubbles coming off of it, and as he swings it, it's like literally rippling through. Oh, it's so cool! It's so cool. And that scene with Mara was dope when she was fighting Steppenwolf.
Oh yeah.
And she uses her powers, if you know what I mean. Yeah. I was like, "Oh, that's fucked up."
Oh, that was fucked up, right?
I was like, "Oh my god!"
I said, "Oh,
you okay?"
Right. The best part about that is you could still see him bleeding.
Yeah.
As he's flowing, as he's swimming away.
Oh, and the rated R-ness
is so rated R.
Holy shit, dude. Okay, so there's 2 F-bombs that I know of. There might have been.
There was supposed to be 3.
Was there 3? Okay.
I only remember. I think one of them really.
I know there's 2. One was in the epilogue.
One, right?
What?
Yeah, Batman gets one.
Yeah. There's another one that's like it's just something said in anger, but the violence in this movie on human beings, there's no fucking way they would have done it in theaters when it did. Nowadays, maybe they would let it slide, but and it's just there's one scene in particular, and it's with Steppenwolf in Atlantis, where he literally cuts motherfuckers in half with his axe, and it's just clouds of blood in the water.
Ooh.
And I was like, okay. Also, Diana kills motherfuckers in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, not like, like they're aliens. They're human beings that she murders. Justice. Yeah. I mean, brings to justice, really. I mean, if we're going to split hairs, they're very bad people. But they're visibly dead. And one of them is not visibly dead because all you see is a fucking hat.
Just floats down, and I was like, where'd that dude go?
Yeah, like it's the Diana that you get in the comic books where like she exacts revenge. Like there's blood on that sword, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, my favorite, I haven't read a lot of Wonder Woman comics, but my favorite Wonder Woman was always the more like kind of walking that edge of anti-hero almost.
Yeah.
And being like vindictive and real angry and willing to go past the point that like Superman or even Batman are willing to go to. That's always been my favorite version of her. So it's cool to hear that she's just killing people.
Yeah, in her opening scene in this, which is the same opening scene from the theatrical release, way more angry. And you can now it's funny because like there's more impact. Not that Wonder Woman 1984 wasn't good, but the fallout from that movie makes sense with this version of Diana we're getting. And she even brings up, which is weird because this movie was obviously made before that, but obviously they could play off what came in the past for the past. But her in this movie is so much more understand. I understood her more in this movie than I did before because you now know her loss that she has twice over, and obviously what happens in this movie, there's more loss. But she's got this ferocity and anger in her that like is so well used in this, it's ridiculous. And that scene is like shows it because like she will hurt other people to protect the innocent. Like Superman will grab you and he'll twist you, twist some metal around you so you can't do anything, whatever. She, and I'm just gonna say it. I'll spoil this. She literally grabs a motherfucker by his collar, throws him so hard and fast, his head smashes on the wall and it leaves a blood spot. Mm-hmm. In front of children.
That's awesome.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
At least I thought it was.
So I remember hearing a while back that the door was open for Ben Affleck to come back. Is that just going to be in like flashback scenes or the Flash movie? Or because wasn't there even talk about a TV show?
Yeah. There's been a lot of talk, a lot of things, and I think they're open for a lot of it. They're just kind of seeing what this does, like how well this does. But yeah, he's, as far as I know, he is open to come back for the Flash stuff because it's still supposed to link to this movie. Now we know it's not directly linked to this movie because you get that Flash in this movie, which was nuts. And Joe understands what I mean by that. But I could see parts of it because they're using Flashback or Flashpoint as the story, and that has to do with multiverse and things like that. And they even specifically say multiverse in this movie.
That scene, yeah. Like
Steppenwolf says, "This is the Earth you've been looking for throughout the multiverse," and I was like, They fucking said it. Let's do this. Well, give me 19 Batmans and 19 Supermans just fucking fighting aliens.
But one of the weirdest, not weirdest, but one of the biggest things that didn't pay off in the theatrical cut was you had that scene of a seemingly a time traveling Flash trying to warn Bruce.
Yeah,
I think he says you were right the whole time it was, and it gets like distorted and it goes away, and then like it never, like there's nothing about it the rest of the movie, and you're like, does that get addressed?
So yeah, so what's funny about that, and this is again that's not spoiling because they do go over that. Wow. That scene is not in this movie.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so when you watch this, you'll understand.
If they just get rid of it, I guess.
Because you know how wonky it looked? Like, it just looked really strange?
Yeah.
I think it was added for whatever reason, Like, it is, like, because the post-apocalyptic scene that we get in the theatrical is different than what you get in this movie.
Yes, it is.
Now, I like that because you get a cool look at things, like obviously like Earth has now been taking over. Superman's not exactly Earth's mightiest hero. But you don't fully understand why because they don't tell you why. He just like, why is Superman snapped? In this movie, they tease it they tease it, and then they fucking tell you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because, like, there was no real reason to have it in this movie other than the fact it was just fucking cool. But it's like, I think there's more to it. You know what I mean? Like, it's still, it could, I mean, obviously, in the premise of the movie, it still could happen because it doesn't play out the same way as it does in the theatrical version. It has a different meaning in this movie. But it's these little things you have to pay attention to that lead up to it, and it has to do with words and images and things that people are saying. It's really interesting the way they do it. But it's very, like, that was the impact. Like, that moment was supposed to be an impact that should have hit harder in the theater, but you didn't know why. And in this one you do, so it hits harder. I'm trying to not say what it is because I want you to know what it, like, I want you to experience it without going, oh, that's what he was talking about.
Oh, that's what he was talking about. Oh, that's what he was talking about. Definitely.
Yeah.
I will say that watching this, I've said it before and I will say it again, that these movies have had much better world building than the Marvel movies have, where, again, each movie is great in Marvel, but when they're trying to do, okay, well, now let's link this to the other movies, well, that's done in an after-credits scene for the most part. For like 90% of the movies. Sure, they may mention, like, oh, the Sokovia Accords, or, oh, hey, that event happened, you know, but it's not really connecting the universes. Where here, those scenes like that are literally showing you, hey, this is where we were going to go. This is literally what we were going to do, and this is in the middle of the movie. It still explains a little bit of the movie. It's the movie that you're in, but it shows you what could have been. And this 4-hour fantastic epicness just does that more and more, and it's just like we're getting a little bit of payoffs of stuff from Batman versus Superman, where we do have the Barry Allen scene coming back saying Lois is the key, and he mentions it in this movie, and he's still trying to figure out what that means towards the whole. And then we get the before credit scene, the epilogue scene here, where it's just like, dude, this is what we were going to do. This is where we were going to go in the future movies. So the world building is just so much better in these movies.
Yeah, because it's like, I always think of it this way. So Aquaman and Wonder Woman, both of them, they're their own thing. Like, they're not their own universes. They're their own stories.
Yeah.
And other than just having those characters, they don't try to directly the things that happen in those movies aren't affecting the team up movies, which is different because, like, with the MCU, it's all one big interconnected, woven, blah blah blah, right? This isn't. This is, like Joe said earlier, a 5-part or 5-movie trilogy.
The main characters of this 5-part trilogy are Batman and Superman. This is your main story of what's going on. You know, that would be like calling the Captain America, Iron Man movies your main story, and that's where everything takes place. But then you just have these things that come off of it, of those movies, or ancillary stuff that explain things, which you don't. That's not how it is in the Marvel universe. But in the DC universe, that's how it would have been. Batman and Superman are your 2 main characters. Your main story, the story of Darkseid, is the main story. And just anything else after that is just ancillary stuff.
Yeah, and then this one, like, with Man of Steel, then Batman v Superman, and then now with the Snyder cut of Justice League, those 3 entities, those 3 movies, are a continuated story where Wonder Woman 1984, and Aquaman are those are their own stories, just happen to have characters that are also involved in Justice League. The events of those movies, like the story of those movies, have nothing to do with this, other than the fact that the character is in these movies. You know what I mean? Like, Man of Steel, the whole premise of that movie was to set up Superman as being Superman and being a god amongst men.
Mm-hmm.
Batman v Superman was showing you, hey, we don't understand this god among men, and so we try to destroy it. Then this movie is like, oh yeah, hey, remember that thing we did? We need to fix that or we're all fucked.
Mm-hmm.
But if you take Wonder Woman and Aquaman, their movies, and you take it out like they didn't exist, does not affect these new movies at all.
No.
Now, I'm not saying take the characters out. I'm saying those extra movies, if they never would have made those movies, it wouldn't have affected the storytelling and the world building in these three movies, because these three movies are what count.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all they count for. Like that's everything else can be happening any time frame, and they do. The whole setup with Aquaman in this one was literally just so he's literally leaving to go back to see his father. And it leads into his movie. Cool. That's what an epilogue is supposed to do, because it tells you where you're going. But
speaking of which, how long after Batman versus Superman do you think this is? They didn't really specify, but it seems like literally weeks.
I think it's so they don't specify at all. There's no time frame given. The way it makes it feel, it's either like it's a few weeks or a handful of months.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because the destruction that happened in Batman v Superman has yet to be fixed.
Yeah.
Like the parts of Gotham and the parts of Metropolis that are fucked over in that movie are still fucked over. Mm-hmm. And even the stuff that was affected in Man of Steel with the ship crashing and the battle with Zod is still not fixed.
Yeah.
Because and that's the one thing too that I noticed is the scale of things, which made me laugh at one point, because there's the shot of, you see it in the trailer, you see Superman in the sky, and you realize it's after he's resurrected, and there's the shot of it. He's like this big, but you can tell he's a man because he's got limbs hanging out there, and he's floating in the sky. But you can see the nice clean city up top, and then below is just wreckage.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize, yeah, not only has they not just turned the page and everything's good to go, like everything's back to normal and Metropolis is whole again, is they've yet to move on for losing Superman, but they've yet to even touch the wreckage that was done with the fight with at the end of Batman v Superman, between the three of them and Doomsday, their version of Doomsday. And it's just like, to Joe's point, you're like, is this the next weekend? Because like,
it's literally what it feels like. Like literally, like, yeah, this is just 2 weeks later. It's like, Jesus Christ, just give us a couple of months to like pick up some, just like do some sweeping. I mean,
yeah, because the only thing that gives you any semblance of time passing is the fact that the last time you see Batman, he's clean shaven. The next time you see Batman, he's got a full on beard.
That's true. Yeah.
So like,
Batman had a beard? That's awesome.
Remember when he goes to talk to Aquaman for the first time?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Or
Yeah.
a bit of a beard. Yeah. So he's been searching for this team for at least a few months.
Yeah, because he grew that beard. So you know there's time has
Batman
passed.
beard probably grows way faster than normal beards, though. You know what I mean?
Well, he's just a man. In that line again, when Barry gets in his car and he says, "So what's your superpower?" He goes, "I'm rich," and the door closes on this like prototype Mercedes Benz with a crazy steering wheel and just takes off. You're like, God damn, you're a dick,
right?
Like you're in. I love his version of Batman and Bruce so much, and it's the exchange of the cameo and the epilogue that Joe knows about that I'm not going to spoil. That I want to see that Bruce Wayne. Like I want to see that fucking smarmy, smart aleck. The fuck, who are you? Like that when he says that, like, and who you are, I was like, oh god damn it, it's so good.
I don't see what people's hate for Ben Affleck as Batman has been. I think he's actually one of my favorites.
He's my favorite,
especially as Bruce Wayne. Like he fits it so well, and the type of Batman that he's essentially going for is the Frank Miller Batman, the older grizzled Batman.
Oh, dude, when you see that scene, Joe, that scene,
I'm not saying anything.
I know, but when you see that scene.
But when you see
that
scene,
my God, it makes me so mad.
Where he has to ice up because he's sore.
No. There's a scene you'll see in this. You will come so hard.
So hard.
Okay, well,
bring a towel.
Because I've said this 100 times, in real life and also on this podcast, which is apparently make believe. Is my favorite part of any movie ever is when a Batman rips a knife out of his own body and stabs a bad guy with it.
Prepare yourself.
Yeah? I'm so happy right now, man.
You don't... You can't... I can't stress to you how good the Batman stuff is in this, because it is this dude who is... They even say it in this. He was like, he fought crime in Gotham for 20 years. He knows when he has the upper hand, but he also knows, you know what? Cowabunga.
No,
and there's a couple scenes where he's like, fuck it, I'm in, let's go. And you're like, what are you doing? She's bulletproof for the most part. You're squishy with the suit. Which, by the way, there's a scene where they explain the suit in this movie that got me so hard.
Dude.
Tech explanation in this movie?
Oh my God. Amazing. Telling you, this movie is everything.
That was the original theatrical trailer that when you really think about it was just like, well, that doesn't make sense. And now you literally explain it in this movie, and you're like, oh, what? Okay, yeah.
And the best part is they explain it without trying to make it seem like movie magic, but it's science in this world.
Yeah, or being like we need to come up with new technology that can do stuff, blah, blah, blah. No, it's just literally like Diana walks up on Alfred and she's like, what are you working on? It's like, just a thing that's supposed to do stuff. And he's like, that's it. That was the explanation. And then it gets paid off later on where he's like, oh God, that did work.
Yeah, it's so good. Like, I want to watch it again, but I don't have 4 hours of my life to fucking spend on it.
I kind of want to watch it again because there's a couple of things that I question whether I saw it correctly or not. And it involves the tone of the actual color of the movie. Because for the most part, everything inside of Gotham is very dark. Everything in Metropolis is like a bright, dark type of thing.
Yeah.
But one thing that I think I noticed was when they cut to Themyscira, when Steppenwolf actually invades. It actually looks very bright and colorful and something that you would have seen from Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Both of them. But when Steppenwolf comes in and the Queen is forced to seal the vault, and the vault just fucking goes over a cliff.
Just yeets the whole fucking thing.
That the colors slowly fade from Themyscira at that point for some reason.
It's very dark at that point, yeah.
It gets very dark. And there's another point towards the end after everybody's been defeated and at least pushed back, that things seem to lighten and get a little bit more color to them.
Yeah, okay. Someone pointed this out when Snyder dropped the first trailer in the end of January, I think it was, kind of making the announcement of like, hey, here it is. This is the date. HBO Max. Here it is, right? They said there's that scene of the dome you see, and it's colored. Obviously, it's red, right? It looks like veins or whatever, right? But the outside world looks normal, and they showed a picture of the theatrical release, and the sky was red. And I was like, wait, what? And I realized, oh, they did. They made the sky red in the theatrical release and we didn't even notice. Like, we're just like, oh, we're, the stuff's bad things are happening. But I was like, and I'm watching this today, and I was like, holy shit. Like, then I realized none of the stuff with the people who were living there happened.
Yes, right? They took out the stupid shit.
Yeah, I was like, they even said this place was uninhabitable.
Yes.
But yet, in the theatrical release, there's motherfuckers living in trailers and shit that they have to rescue.
The whole family they gotta push out.
Yeah.
Yes.
In this one, they're like, nobody can live here because in the 70s, and no one fucking does. That's why Steppenwolf went there, is because he knew no one was around to fucking snitch on his ass. And I was like, oh, well, that makes way more sense.
That in and of itself, I remember something from the original movie. It was like, okay, it makes sense. I guess people are living there, and they just throw Barry at that because Barry in that theatrical movie was
a shit stain,
really
apparently.
So much more hesitant of fighting. There is none of that, really.
Oh, he actually fights?
Yeah.
He does more fighting in this than he does in the theatrical cut, and he doesn't have such a I'm so scared of it. Like, he still has a hesitation of it, but he's willing to do it because he's willing to be a superhero. But his final thing in that scene was so harrowing.
Yeah.
And so, God, you felt so much for him in the pain and suffering that he goes through in that final scene right there. So it's so good.
So good. There's so much that happens in that last that just when they fly in and land, that part has so much going on in it.
So much more gravitas to it. Like, you literally, I at one point was like, well, Batman just thinks he's gonna die. Like, he's
just screaming cowabunga every turn.
Yeah,
well,
he's literally just like,
there's a little bit of that in the theatrical where he talked about, like, when they kind of set it up when he was like undressing slowly, and when he thought he was by himself and kind of.
Which, by the way, not in this movie.
That's so funny.
Yeah,
not in this movie. That scene was not in this movie.
And it's funny that you bring that up because in this movie you feel it, like you know that he's tired.
He's the squishiest of all.
Yeah, he's definitely the squishiest one, and you can see it's taking its toll on him. But it's not that scene where, like, oh, I can't get my armor off after 20 fucking years of using this armor. You know he's had broken bones where he's had to take that shit off by himself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's older, but it's like, it's fucking Batman, dude. Like, you don't need that shit. But then this one, you're like, at one point, you can see so used to it, he's just lounging in the suit. He has the cowl off, the gloves are off, and he's just sitting in a chair that you can see he made to support himself while wearing the suit, and he's just relaxing. And you're like, not relaxing. He's like, I'm gonna sit back and have a beer and fucking chew on a stogie. But he's like, they just got done with a fucked up fight that he should have died at least 3 times in. And he's like, he's not like, oh man, I this was a hell of a day. He's just like, his brain is still going a mile a minute, but his body is like, nah, you know what I need to do? I need to sit in this chair. But they don't have to fucking point it out. It's there, and you can, if you're paying attention, you can see it, and you're like, oh, it makes sense. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Basically, what I'm saying is this is a really good movie.
It's a really good movie.
All 4 hours of it.
The plan is to watch it tomorrow night when everybody gets off work. So
good.
I'll have reviews for you. And we can talk about it on the thread soon.
And the scene, I don't want to say scene change, the part changes, like when it goes from part 1 to part 2, is literally the perfect time to pause it, take a piss, get a snack, whatever, and then come back and watch it. Like, every time I texted you guys, it was when that scene popped up. I paused it, texted you guys, did what I needed to do, unpaused it, and let it go. So I probably stretched out the movie for an extra 30 minutes by fucking stopping every time. But
Those parts weren't very long. They're literally just like 10 seconds. Part 1, and then it gave like a little title. Part 2 and a little title.
yeah,
You know, something the title would pay off in that section. You know,
either a word or a theme.
or a phrase or a theme or something like that. Yeah.
Highly recommend. 2 thumbs up, 5 stars. Would watch again.
Seriously. I legit, after watching that, I was like, are they going to do a Blu-ray release of this in widescreen? Because I think I'd totally buy that. Like just a special edition widescreen Blu-ray.
Yeah, I was going to ask, are they ever going to put this for sale, though?
It's an HBO Max original. They could.
I don't think I've seen anybody talk about it.
I don't either. It's just it's out on their streaming service. Obviously, they want it there. Oh wait, well, I guess I just read that right here. Apparently, it was reported that the cut will be released on 4K UHD and Blu-ray in Australia and Germany on May 26th, 2020 and May 27th, 2021, respectively. Plans for releases in other territories have not yet been announced. And I think it's because Australia and Germany don't have HBO Max.
Which would make sense, but then there you go. They're going to have it, so might as well sell it.
Yeah. I mean, it's another stream of money, but also it's like you want to get it out to places you can get people to see it.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Oh, and Darkseid's fucking amazing in this movie.
He's awesome.
Oh my god.
He's so much more terrifying than something like Thanos.
Yeah, dude.
And they show him fucking up people.
Yeah, like that's the thing with
using his fucking laser eyes, fucking killing people.
And with Thanos, he was only fucking people up at the end of Endgame, right?
Yeah.
In this one, as soon as you see him, he just fucking superhero lands down on the fucking ground, literally in front of a charging army, and he's like, "Let's go!" And his parademons are like just off in the distance. He's just cutting through bitches, punching people off horses, catching arrows. I was like, God damn, he's terrifying. And all he had was a stick.
He's such a dick.
Oh, he's such a dick. Oh my god,
till
dude!
Mike gets to that scene too at the end there with the Darkseid.
Yeah,
just that whole sequence where that happens right there,
just so good.
That when it was happening, I was like, "Are they gonna? Do they? Oh my god!"
Yeah, it just makes me so mad that we're probably never getting more of this.
It makes
I think positive. This is gonna do great, and then we're gonna get everything we wanted.
They just need to be like, hey, Snyder, I know you're doing this thing over at Netflix. You're done, right? Here's a bunch of money. Would you like to play in the sandbox again? And we're not gonna let Jeff Johns near you. Okay, cool.
Go finish this, right?
Oh my god, dude!
You know, Henry Cavill will come back and play Superman, and I'm pretty sure at this point you might be able to convince Ben Affleck to come back as Batman.
Yeah,
Gal Gadot is going to play Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I mean, she doesn't need those.
There's no problem there.
She's dead in Fast and Furious, so it doesn't matter.
Your only question would be Ray Fisher coming back as Cyborg, and that might just be, hey, seriously addressing the problems that he had during filming, especially with Joss Whedon, and at least seriously saying, you were right, dude. And this is not going to be anything like that because Snyder has the controls of this.
And just let him fucking make 94 hours of fucking Justice League.
And just put it on HBO Max, and there's one of your big draw things to bring people to HBO Max.
Every other year we get 4 hours of Justice League goodness. Right?
You could make exactly that. You could literally make the ancillary movies actual movies, release them in theaters. If theaters is a thing that still happens after the pandemic, really still happens. And then you can have the actual Justice League movies exclusively on HBO Max.
and make them 4 hours long. I don't even give a
Make
fuck.
them 4 hours long and not have to worry about cutting things down and cutting things out. That's one thing I've always said about the streaming services that I wish people would do, or even TV shows I wish people would do, is making properties and not having to worry about how long they are. Just telling the story as they should.
Don't try to fit it in your 42 minutes with commercial breaks.
Yeah, give me the ability to pause something and go to the bathroom and come back. You know,
Like just like the whole thing. Like just let me bookmark where I'm at so I can go back to this, and also make me bookmark parts that I want to watch 9 times in a row. You know, like just like when Batman fucking pulls a knife out of him and stabs a dude with it.
So I can just bookmark the whole entire movie. You're just like, everything's bookmarked.
Every 15 minutes is another bookmark, and you're just like, oh,
But
this
give
one.
Give me Hateful Eight. You know, Hateful Eight, just like 1 hour. That's part 1. Another hour, part 2. You know, part 3, part 4. Anyway.
Speaking of bookmarks, comes naturally. We are
Joe.
Mike.
I am Cody. And that's actually it for this week's episode, everybody. We talked about Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Mm-hmm. And next week we'll do all the spoilers.
Yeah, because next week it'll be spoiler version, so it'll be Zack Spoilers Justice League.
Yeah, come back for part 2, guys.
4-hour podcast. Go.
4-hour podcast. Nah,
I with you guys for 4 hours. I'm gonna do a 4-hour podcast.
Wow. Okay, well, I guess on that note, fuckers just came naturally because Mike is not real friends with us apparently, unless it's an hour long.
Hey.
It was a good line.